everybody, and welcome to the paper's Next Gen Innovation video series, where we highlight how innovation, technologies, and partnerships are shaping the future of payments and fintech. Today we're focusing on the ABN AMRO Techstars Future of Finance Accelerator, which brings together founders who are building the next generation of fintech solutions. I am super happy to be joined by Hamerlinck, Head of Fintech Venturing at ABN AMRO. So Lawrence sits at the intersection of institutional risk culture and early stage startup logic, two systems with fundamentally different incentives, timelines, and tolerance for failure. So Lawrence has spent years trying to solve one of corporate innovation's oldest problems. So basically, how do you inject external disruptions into an institutions built on risk avoidance and still make both sides come out ahead? So his role is to make that work in practice and keep it running year after year. But just to put some context around it, so since 2020, ABN AMRO has been running the annual Future of Finance program in partnerships with Techstars, the world's most active early-stage investor operating across more than 60 countries. So each edition runs for 3 months in person in Amsterdam, and selected founders receive hands-on mentorship, go-to-market support, and help securing their next funding round. And of course, they also get the direct exposure to ABN AMRO's operations with the possibility of launching commercial pilots with the bank. So Lawrence, thank you for joining me today. How are you?
Very good. I'm very happy to have this interview. We had already a great conversation in person, so it's my pleasure.
Thank you, and thank you for joining me again. And we have quite an exciting conversation ahead of us. But before we get going, why don't you give our audience a little preview of who you are and what your role is, please?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Laurens, working from Amsterdam. I work for ABN AMRO, large Dutch bank. I was actually trained as a change manager. By accident, got to work for an incubator. That's why I got the innovation virus and was exposed to a lot of entrepreneurship, I guess. Then I was lucky to actually relaunch innovation within the ABN AMRO with a small team in 2013 with the Innovation Center and the inception of a new space to host innovation within the bank at headquarters. And through various roles, eventually now I became the head of Fintech Venturing, overseeing all our fintech activities as ABN AMRO. My team is really the first point of contact for fintech companies that want to engage with ABN AMRO. And we do that very ad hoc, of course, because we got a lot of inbound from the ecosystem. But we also work with partners indeed, of which one is Techstars, which we're going to talk about today. And the other is Motive Partners. It's also an international fintech investor, which we closely work with, and we have a few LP stakes in their funds.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And can you, just to start, can you maybe explain how the accelerator works in practice, basically from the selection process through the demo day and then post the program engagement with ABN AMRO?
Yeah. So founders only see the accelerator, right? But the accelerator itself for us is a full year of work. So it starts at the beginning of the year where we look at the market and we formulate our thesis, like what are we really wanna focus on this year, also as a bank, and are we still aligned on what we see in the fintech ecosystem. Then we start recruiting. That's the phase we're in right now, right? So we spend a lot of time in the main hubs of the European ecosystem, so Paris, London, Frankfurt, Munich, Berlin, Amsterdam, of course. And we meet a lot of founders and make some noise around the program. Then we go into selection mode. That's soon about to start. And then in fall we run the 3 months program. And that is the full year of an accelerator. And then, of course, for ABN AMRO, the real work starts, because post-program we obviously want to work with these companies and launch pilots and go beyond. So this is in a nutshell for us the main phases of one full year of an accelerator, and this is how we've been running it since 2020.
Interesting. And can you maybe also share some success stories, maybe some strong outcomes, commercial partnerships, follow funding?
Yeah. I get this question a lot, of course. Like, so what is the success story? And I always get asked the question back, like, what is your what's your definition of success, right? Because there's many reasons why we have this program, and also depending on who you are in this whole in this whole game, you can measure success, right? But for the founders, of course, success would be like an amazing program, a lot of network added to your own network, a lot of great insights and intros into large organizations that can develop the product with you, maybe a pilot signed with ABN AMRO soon after the program, your first fundraise, etc. So all of these things, we have a lot of those, right? And I think this is the main thing that all companies will get from the program. Then if you look at ABN AMRO, like how does success look for us, right? So there's a couple of things there. Of course, we're curious, like what are the people now building, especially nowadays with AI, right? What's coming at us, and what are the new disruptive ideas? And they don't come from within the bank. I can assure you, there's great ideas, but most of them are incremental, which is obvious and fine. So already having a great cohort of great people and great talent is success for us. Then the second thing, of course, we want to fill our innovation funnel. So a few should actually convert into proof of concepts, pilots, where we actually launch the innovation projects together very quickly because we're working with great teams. So we have a lot of those, right? Approximately 40% of all the startups that went through the program got into serious pilot with ABN AMRO. I would say the main success and the main implementation case that I always use as a reference is now Convergent AI. That was an AI startup in our cohort of 2013. They had this concept, which was still a bit vague, about like, okay, could we train maybe employees with AI simulations? And eventually, through a lot of customer discovery within the bank, we found a great sponsor who was willing to work with them and literally co-develop the product, which was unique because they didn't have that much. And that became now a full AI-enabled learning platform that we utilize for onboarding new call center employees, but also training experienced employees on new products. And we do that through very realistic AI simulations. So the AI simulates the client call. You can even give the AI his or her own attitudes. So it can be a difficult client, it can be a client that is very angry or is very financially savvy. And then by doing that, it's literally like the old days of flight simulator. Our colleagues can actually practice. They can practice up front for their job, and that has hit all the metrics in a very positive way. And this is obviously the business impact you're looking for. It's not only about like, oh, this is cool to work with a startup and with new technology, but this actually moved the needle dramatically on, for example, call center metrics, employee happiness and confidence to go into difficult client calls. So this is for me the ideal situation of where a startup finds somebody internally and that becomes magic.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for sharing. That's a very interesting example and success story. And can you maybe also share a little bit about maybe the challenges, or maybe where does the model struggle in practice, whether, I don't know, is selecting the startups, integrating them into the bank, or...
Yeah, so I would say the short answer to that is that all innovation killers still apply, right? So innovation in itself is just hard for a large institution that is so much focused on and should be focused on the daily business and making sure that clients are happy and are treated the right way. And so much of the effort within large organizations has always been focused on efficiency, on that, which is fine. And I think the best person that described this was the late Clayton Christensen in The Innovator's Dilemma, where he showed this dilemma that all the organizations have, right? You need to spend time on your running your business and improving that, and you need to spend time on finding your next top line, so to speak. So that's a healthy tension, which I think you need to accept. And of course, to your point, if you go into the daily operations with this new thing, the startup, that can clash. And this is where I would say they called it during my studies, they call it absorptive capacity, which is more the research concept around it, which is very interesting. And that's the ability for an organization to absorb external knowledge and concepts and then commercialize them. And I think this has always stuck with me, that this is the role of me and my team and the innovation team in general, to enhance absorptive capacity. So all my effort goes to that, right? And this is where I would say also the model struggles the most. Like, how do you bring those two together? How do I and how is my team enabling ABN AMRO to absorb all the innovation that is out there, and also accept that not all of it will be absorbed, but through opening up and through bringing that in, there's already so much learning and so much stuff happening that I feel that is a huge benefit. And can you ever build a fully fledged funnel straight to the golden egg and scale? I think that's never going to happen, because it's just the nature of innovation.
Yeah. And I have a follow-up question to this, because how we see it basically is that one of Europe's largest banks tries to stay relevant by basically betting on the companies that could eventually its launch. And how do you I don't know, how is that tension addressed both in conversation with funders and within ABN AMRO's own strategy discussion? So basically, how do you reconcile the role of a large incumbent bank investing in early stage companies that may, of course, ultimately compete with parts of its core business?
Yeah, so this is a very, very good question. Yeah, I think I've always believed closing your eyes to it is not a good strategy, right? And I truly believe in bringing the two worlds together, and then also having a healthy dialogue, and it can also be only internally, right? So what are we seeing here, what do we think of it, and what could be the benefits, and also what could be the concerns we have here, because the difficulty of that startups often face is that when you come with your solution to a large organization, there's always a competitor. And the competitor could be an IT team that's building the same, could be a long-standing vendor that the company is comfortable with. So you have to just accept that fact that will always be there, right? Because if you come in with, I don't know, a new compliance solution at a bank, of course there is already a compliance solution, because without it we wouldn't be able to run a bank. So that's one. And then secondly, I think conversation and healthy dialogue is still something I truly value and try to enable, but then also based on facts and data. So my team is really, and the innovation team is really equipped to launch pilots and proof concepts quickly. And the reason we want to do that is also because we want to look at proof, right? You want to look at something that is actually working, and then form your opinion about it. because then we can extrapolate it to a larger scale, or we can just think about like how might this apply in the wider organization, or how does it actually compare to the existing solution that's already out there now that we see it in action. And I think it's also just that is business, right? I often like to also pop up the BCG matrix, because I think it's a great tool, right? It's like, okay, what is now your cash cow? Okay, protect that. What is now your new star, right? Your rising star. Okay, invest in that and scale it. But also, like in the business of innovation, like what are still like, what could be question marks, right? Or what could be the dogs in our portfolio where we feel like, okay, this is not really, or this vendor or this solution is not really working for us anymore. We need innovation there. But then you need to be able to compare, and you need to be able to make that analysis and think a little bit strategic about it. And this is what I really like about ABN AMRO. It's really an open organization that's often the most prominent feedback we get from founders, like after the Accelerator, that ABN AMRO colleagues were very open to engage with them, which I think is a very great compliment, but also very helpful in this process of bringing it in, giving it a fair chance, and then trying to do a solid analysis on it, whether we could actually absorb it, also let it coexist. Sometimes it's fine that stuff is a little bit competing, I think.
Thank you. These are great insights. Can I also ask, because so what should a founder realistically aim to achieve in the window of 3 months to live with tangible value rather than just a good experience? So basically, from what I understand, founders get 3 months mentorship and access to ABN AMRO operations. So what can they realistically get out of this?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and a question I get all the time, of course, from the founders. So what do I get? Yeah, first of all, you get money, so that's great as a founder. But I think this is also a conversation we often have with founders, like, what are you now looking for, given the stage you are at, right? Because you will get the mentors, we will open up the bank for you. But the question I always ask is like, but who do you want to talk to, and why? And what are your current challenges, and how can we help you solve them? And often for founders, it's still customer discovery, fine-tuning the product, looking how it could really help the organization, right? It's always like, in the beginning, it's often like a very simple pitch. This is what we do, and this is how we solve. And like, take the Convergent example, like we do AI training simulation, and it's all great. But I think I had to stick to that example to answer your question. So when they got in, they did a lot of customer discovery. We eventually, for example, learned in the call center that there are very specific metrics they measure, and and we learned from HR that there's a very specific method on how they deal with training employees and upskilling employees and measuring that, etc. So those were very valuable insights for actually product development. But this is one example, right? So I think it's very important that founders come in with a little bit of a plan, because then you will get a lot of value out of it. And the mentors and the people at ABN AMRO, they will guide you to the right people who then can bring you that value. And what you then walk away with is, I would say, 3 things. Like, one, obviously network, right? Your network will be incredibly expanded. Also by being on the ground and going literally like into the bank and meeting people in person, which is extremely valuable. 2, and what founders often forget, there's 9 other companies in there. You will walk away with a tribe of friends, with very like-minded people that are also building a fintech, and they're at the same stage. They run into the same challenges. And that is always really great to see at the end of the program how they find each other. Literally this morning I still got a WhatsApp of a founder somewhere in Europe with a selfie with, hey, look with who I bumped into. That's always great to see. And don't underestimate the power of such a tribe, because that goes on after the program. And I think the third thing is that for many founders, this is just life-changing experience, right? In terms of like, and we really focused on that, and I think it's also the power of the program, where they really, look in the mirror, who they are as a person, as a company, as a team, and that develops just so quickly in a positive way during these 3 months. And that this is also where the mentorship and the whole tribe thing comes in. But all of them walk away as different people, which I think in itself is, and this sounds a bit fluffy, but that is one of the big successes of this program, is that all the people you will interview that went through Future Finance Accelerator, they will all tell you this, like, this was another thing. This was a thing in my life that I will always cherish. And I think it's really powerful, because these people are set to build maybe very big companies and lead very big teams. And then that personal leadership part and that team and culture part is extremely important.
Thank you. Love this insight. It's very, very inspiring, actually. And I've also learned that applications for last year, for 2025, hit over 520, so which was, from what I understand, the highest volume yet. So how do you measure whether the program is actually working beyond application numbers?
Yeah, that's a good one. So Techstars has a range of things they measure, and the key one is like the founder NPS, right, or the score they give the program, which tells a lot about like how founders value the program, and that's obviously incredibly important for Techstars. I think on the ABN side, we measure 3 things. Like, one is innovation, and innovation is defined by like how many pilots, how many proof concepts do we get out of the program, how many projects do we get running, because for us it is a way to strengthen the funnel, right, the innovation funnel, and you can just from pilots, obviously things should convert to eventually contracts. Second thing we measure is just plain vanilla financial performance of a VC. It's also a venture capital investment, right? So we also look at that angle, like how is the valuation progressing, etc. And then finally, it's more PR KPI. So and we measure both internal and externally. So to what extent does the program have a very positive PR internally and externally? So internally, I would say it adds to a lot of company pride, and people love to engage with the program and with the founders, and that gives a lot of positivity. Externally, of course, we have a lot of exposure on things like this, but also events, demo days, etc. And also there we get very I would say very positive feedback on ABN AMRO doing its thing in the startup ecosystem and adding to the ecosystem and working with founders, and that is also something we carefully measure and also track.
Thank you. And one final question. So the 6th edition is, from what I understand, is already planned for this year. So we see that basically many corporate accelerators globally lose momentum after a few years when internal priorities or leadership change. What makes this one sustainable in the long term?
Yeah, it's all because of me. No, just kidding. No, I would say, like, I was there from the start, of course, but there was a great collaboration of the two teams, right? I think Techstars has been a great partner, and always very open to, and also like a little bit like challenging towards us, like so and maybe they even indoctrinated us to some extent, like this will only work if you really mean it and bring value to founders, and then the rest will come. That was really what they told us at the beginning, like give first and focus on the founders, nurture that, and then the rest will come from that. And I think in hindsight that was a very good advice and very true. I think involving great people would be my advice, right? We all know who these great and constructive and awesome people are in your organization. Involve these, right, with the program, because those are the people that can really add value, and those are also the people that will become an ambassador of the program. And I also saw that develop over time. Yeah, and this is a hard one for me, but I think in general what we've built is something very very positive on all like hard and soft metrics for innovation at ABN AMRO, if I look at it selfishly. And yeah, towards the ecosystem, I would say it's a very respected, has become a very respected program, and also a program that is carried by the network around it, just the whole Techstars and mentor network around it. And that's probably also why it's still there, because people love it. People genuinely believe that it's a very good thing for the fintech ecosystem. Yeah, and that's why we continue to go for it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, Lawrence, it has been a pleasure to speak with you today. This has been a wonderful conversation, and again, thank you so much for joining me and for shining a spotlight on ABN AMRO Techstars Future of Finance Accelerator. And yeah, for anybody watching who would like to know more about ABN AMRO Techstars Future of Finance Accelerator, then I'm sure Lawrence would be more than happy for you to reach out. Until next time, and thank you again, Lawrence.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.